Hey, so it is our first week of High Performance Habits. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited about this book. And when I was looking at book studies to do, I thought about this one for a long time, and I picked it up, and literally within the first page and a half, I was like, we have to do this. And the more I got into the chapters, I was like, yes, everybody needs to have this book. Everybody does. So this is what I would really highly suggest. If you have the audio, that's great. Genevieve Scory, you guys all know who Genevieve is, right? Yeah, she's our like amazing leader trainer, the one that does the boop. Yep, we know. Yes. Not if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, good. She says that when she wants to learn something, she doesn't actually read it, circle it, underline it, whatever. She will listen to it 7 times, which is incredible. But that's how she learns and that kind of thing. So if that's your deal, do that. I would suggest getting the paper copy just because we're doing a book study and it's easier to refer back to different pages and that kind of thing. But you do what is going to make you the most successful in this book study. If you've done book studies with me before, you know that I tend to do both. I listen and I read because then it accesses different parts of my brain and I can keep it longer. So does anybody have anything to say about this right off the hop? Linda, are you still in Arizona? We love you, but like that's difficult to watch. No, just kidding. It's awesome.
Heading home tomorrow.
Okay, well, it's not that bad here. Soak up some sun for us today because there's none here. I would love to jump right into kind of the nitty-gritty. I mean, I highlighted so much of these first 2 sections, but I want to jump this morning and spend most of our time in the high performance 6. So if you have your book and you're wondering where we are, it would be like page 37, page 38. How many of you guys did the actual test and would be comfortable sharing your score? Did anybody do the test? Did I mention this is going to be interactive and it's going to be great? Okay, so I did the test. If you haven't done it, I don't know, maybe we should join our chats so that we can all sort of be together. But I've got the link for it as well. And it's a super fast, you know, I think it's got 5 options, you know, for everything. It's about 5 minutes long. And it's not like a regular personality test. Martha, did you do it or did you not?
No, I was just going to ask, what test are you talking about?
So it's the test that he talks about between the intro and the first chapter. It says what to do right now, take the assessment, and read the next 2 chapters today. So I will make sure that you guys get that link. And you guys can take the test before you even start reading it. If you haven't covered any of the material yet, go to either YouTube and you can listen to it for free, like the whole book is on YouTube, or you can go to his podcast and he has the entire book broken down into chapters, I believe starting August of 2018. Okay. So basically, what I am loving about this so far is, first of all, he says this isn't going to be a ton of stories about high performers. This isn't going to be a ton of like, you know, it's not going to be a lot of, you know, what I think when he was talking about it, humor and for instances and whatever that we tend to find in a lot of books. Like I love John Maxwell, but most of John Maxwell's books are, here's the concept and here are a whole bunch of stories to support the concept, which works. It really does. And I missed that when we were, which book was it that we read? Well, I know that How to Win Friends and Influence People. Oh, season 4 in his podcast is the book. Thanks, Nikki. When we did How to Win Friends and Influence People, that was a ton of stories. Like, it was story after story after story after story. What he's saying is that's not how this book is going to be. This is instruction. This is actual habits that you need to have in order to be a high performer. And going back to another reason why we chose this book is because our high performers in our industry, specifically in Plexus, they hold Brendon Burchard in very high regard. Brooke Hemingway, I can already tell how much of her own personal training and stuff like that comes from this basis. And so in my mind, if you're looking at those people who are having the most success in the business that we want to emulate, it makes the most sense to do what they do, right? Doesn't that make the most sense? So it's, yeah. The amount of times that he says things like align and all those things, I'm like, oh, that's where Brooke got her concept of, you know, her align retreats and all of those things. So basically, and what I had told my team was, if you feel like you just simply don't possess the pizzazz or the talent or the natural giftedness to be successful in this business, then this book is exactly for you, because it teaches completely the contrary. The idea is not that you need to possess all of these things innately, but that you can develop all of these habits. Anybody can, in order to do this business. Is that a relief for you guys? Is that relieving to know that, yeah, that I love the part in the book. Okay, hold on, I've got to find it because I know I didn't highlight it, but I thought it was really, really funny. So for example, imagine you're working on a project with a few teammates. You have one person in particular who's not performing well. Imagine how ridiculous it would be for you to walk over to that person and say, if you could just improve your personality for us, if you could just up your IQ for us, if you could just change how you were innately gifted, if you could just be more right-brained, if you could just have 5 more years of experience under your belt here. This one was super funny. If you could be more female, male, Asian, black, white, taller, shorter, like all of those things that you have absolutely no control over. If you went up to somebody and said that, it doesn't help them change their performance, right? If you could just improve the culture here real quick, if you could just pay yourself the perfect amount to be more productive. Has anybody ever thought about that with money? Gosh, if I could just be making a little bit more money, it would be so much easier to be more productive. I definitely have fallen victim to that every now and again. I'm sure that, you know, even if you don't want to, and guys, can I just say, like, this is a super safe place. He caught me off guard, stop talking personality tests. Yes. He talks about how, like, personality tests are good, but they're not. This book has very little to do with the internal and more the external. And it's interesting. Do you guys ever have that happen where you feel like you're being led one direction, and then all of a sudden everything in your life is pointing to that particular thing, right? So for me lately, it's been external value. What value are you adding? Why would somebody want to follow you on Instagram? They don't want to watch your life. They don't give a rip, because who are you? You know? Sorry, the glare on my glasses is driving me crazy. They want to know what kind of value you can give to them. So what kind of value are you putting out there for other people? Why would they want to follow you? Why would your team want to follow you? What value are you giving them that they can't get somewhere else? Or that they choose to only get from you? So that was like a huge thing here, right? Because he's talking all about what you can do for other people. The bottom line is, if you're going to focus on anything to improve your team's performance, start with the HP6. So that's what he talks about, high performance habits. There are 6 of them, and he refers to them as the HP6. So I thought that that was really, really interesting. Yeah, I'm missing my counterpart because Marge usually just talks. I didn't say that in a bad way. I love her. She's so, and this was another thing here. High performers are admired. Their peers look up to them, even though the high performers are outperforming them. Why? This was so key, you guys. Because to become a high performer, ego takes a back seat to service. So that's all about servant leadership, right? And we talk about it a lot, but that ego, it's really hard to let that go, right? Because he talks about how, I can't remember if it was in one of the, I think it was in the test that he did. And the test is basically just to identify those 6 areas and where you struggle most in each one of those 6 high performance habits. And it's essentially just for you to realize, okay, here's an area that I can improve on. And he talks about that in here. He says, if you're wondering how you can change your productivity, look at one of those areas that you scored lower in than everywhere else and improve that one area, and your productivity will go through the roof.
Janelle, I think it's neat that you were touching on ego. Did anybody else see Amber Miller's live this morning?
I saw it, well, actually it was from yesterday. Wasn't that cool? What did you take away from that? Can you explain it, because some people may not have seen it?
To me, I always just thought of ego as like one of those people that, I'm better than you, like really like looking highly on yourself. Well, she kind of explained it as ego is basically any focus on yourself. So if you're like self-doubting, or if you're like comparing yourself to other people and saying, I'm not as good as that person, or I'm not performing as well, or I'm not doing as well, you're still focusing on yourself, and your ego is still like hitting your ego. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Nikki is saying one of Abby Kappa's podcasts is all about ego, and it sounds exactly like what you're talking about.
Yeah,
totally true. And if you want to pull that into our industry, making, what's the word that I'm looking for? When you make an assumption for someone that they don't need the product, or maybe it's too expensive for them or whatever, that actually isn't about them, that's about you.
Mm-hmm.
And when we switch that and we realize that, that's hard to get over, right? Because we have this mode where we want to protect other people from ourselves, right? You don't want to be too much for them, but it's a you focus. Yeah. So I don't know, Stacey, maybe you're finding one of those things too, where it's like, okay, all things are pointing here. I know I like, and some of those things, like I know that when Amber was talking about that yesterday, I was like, wow, that's really, if you guys haven't seen it, she actually posted it on her, like it's in Biz, I think it is.
Yeah, it's in Biz.
Yeah. There were a few of those things that I had to be like, wow, okay, I need to do a bit of a check here. Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm jumping all over the place, but you guys should be used to that by now. So of course there was only a touch on this, and I thought it was interesting because it seems like every other industry book that we read focuses so much on your why, right? And maybe we'll get into it more as he's going through things. But have you guys ever realized that as time has passed, your why isn't quite as strong as it was before, because maybe you've achieved a certain level of success and you've gotten there? Like I've seen ambassadors before who maybe they started out super strong. I'm just going to give it a for instance. They started out super strong and they had a goal in mind. Like they were going to get to Jewel, because $10,000 a month was going to change their financial lives. Okay. And then they got to a level where they were making enough money to pay for their product. They were bringing in like a couple $100s a month, like we're talking 700, 800, but beyond their product. And while that wasn't 10 grand, it made it comfortable. It made it so that they could go out for supper a couple more times in a month, and, it stretched their budget a little bit more. And so they weren't totally comfortable, as in they never had to think about money, but they got to a place where it was no longer so painful to stay where they were that they had to continue to reach for the next goal. You guys ever realize that your why is lacking just a little bit and that you're comfortable? It's no longer uncomfortable to stay where you are.
I wonder,
go ahead.
I wonder, Janelle, if our why is focused on us, going back to ego, if that is where we lack, right? Like for me, my why has always been, I mean, I have two whys. My why is so that my hubby can quit working on the road so much. But my other big why is I want to be able to have enough finances to bless people. And so when that is kind of at the top of my why, I don't think I can ever make enough money to stop blessing people. Like, I would love to be able to build a house for a Mexican family every year. That's a missions trip we did. I would like to be able to do that every year. Mm-hmm. And so I have big whys. And so, but I think if we're focused on like, oh, I want enough money to like have a nice car. Well, once that car comes, like if that's your biggest why, I feel like that's a really small box. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know. It's just my thought.
No, absolutely. But as we go, like, so for example, so if you hit that place where you can build a house in Mexico, right? And you're doing it every year. That is a pretty huge dream and I love it. What will continue to push you forward? You may need to identify a little bit more specifically, sorry, I'm just trying to keep an eye on the chat, identify more specifically what your next thing is, right? So for some of us, like for me, part of my why was I wanted, initially, I wanted enough money to to be able to homeschool my kids however I wanted to, okay? So we hit that point, like I remember sitting in the car and my husband saying, Kate, you know what? Order the kids 3 more Chromebooks. So they were $350 a piece. Order the kids 3 more Chromebooks. You know, the little guy can use yours, no big deal. And then we will sign them up for this curriculum that I wanted. And it was an online based thing. So I would move into a facilitator role. And it was awesome. It was so awesome. And I remember hitting submit to Amazon to send our 3 Chromebooks and the cases or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Now I get to homeschool my kids however I want to. And then it changed into, I want to be able to send my kids to a private Christian school that has an amazing leadership focus. And so now we're doing that. So now, I mean, my why could be to maintain that, but now my why has to switch again because I've achieved that, right? So now I need to make sure that my why is still important enough for me to go to work in the morning, right? Martha, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, exactly that. Like, I feel like my why would always need to be changing because once you reach the one, you need to have another one to keep going. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And Stacey, you may need to put some, and I don't want to say, I know you'll figure out what I'm trying to say, but almost put a smaller why in so that you feel like you've achieved something on the way to retiring your husband and building the houses in Mexico, right? It may be like, I want to make sure that I have, you know, I have 2 kids that want to be in baseball and I want to be able to cover that besides our product and pay our electric bill and our gas bill. Like, or I want to be able to go to convention and not have to pay for it out of my husband's pocket. I want it to come out of all my Plexus income or something like that.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Starting with, I think, our whys need to constantly be changing and growing and moving as we grow. Yeah,
for sure. Okay, so these 6 habits are so brilliant. So there's kind of 3 personal habits and 3 social habits. Okay, so it's seek clarity, generate energy, and he literally means like personal energy. Like, I don't have enough energy to get off the couch and turn off the light that's in my eyes. Like that kind of energy. Raise necessity, increase productivity is the first social one, develop influence, and demonstrate courage. So there was a couple of these that really spoke to me. We've heard people say before that overwhelm is simply a lack of clarity. Have you guys ever heard of that before?
I felt it.
Yeah? Okay, I'm looking, sorry, I'm going back to the chat. Who is on the BlackBerry? Can you tell me? There you are. There you are. Okay, good. Thank you for putting comments in. I was just like, BlackBerry. Why needs to be updated and made more in depth? Isn't there a 1, 3, 5-year goal planning as well? Yeah, for sure. Really changed how I viewed ego, for sure. But yeah, if you're not seeking clarity, so it says, seek clarity on who you want to be, how you want to interact with others, what you want, and what will bring you the greatest meaning. As every project or major initiative begins, you ask questions such as, what kind of person do I want to be while I'm doing this? How should I treat others? What are my intentions and objectives? What can I focus on that will bring me a sense of connection and fulfillment? High performers ask these types of questions not only at the beginning of an endeavor, but consistently throughout. They don't just get clarity once and develop a mission statement that lasts the test of time. They consistently seek clarity again and again as times change and they take on new projects or enter new social situations. So I know that for me, I had like this massive amount of clarity that just kind of, I feel like it like descended on me in September. And I knew exactly all the things. It was like I could see, like tangibly see what needed to be done and what areas were lacking. And then all of a sudden the clarity went away. And I was like, isn't there a button that I can press to get the clarity back? Like where did it go? And I panicked for a little bit, but then I realized I just needed to walk myself back through the thought process of how did I gain the clarity? What, how did that change things for me? All of that kind of thing. And I thought that these performance habits, like obviously we're going to be really camping on all of these things, but I would really, really suggest that you guys write them out, like just the 6 titles of them, and put them up somewhere that you can see, right? I don't know why I can never see the bottom. So the second one is generate energy so that you can maintain focus, effort, and well-being. To stay on your A game, you'll need to actively care for your mental stamina, physical energy, and positive emotions in very specific ways. Can we talk about that for a second? Like, what does that look like for you? I mean, obviously, let me just give the Sunday school answer here for 2 seconds. I'm going to drink all my water and I'm going to take my supplements every day. Okay, so that's out of the way. So what else? Anybody?
Read it again, Janelle.
Okay, well, generate energy so that you can maintain focus, effort, and well-being. To stay on your A game, you'll need to actively care for your mental stamina, physical energy, and positive emotions in very specific ways. So he had said in this book that people who are high performers, like all of them, exercise very regularly, and they take an active role in eating very healthy.
I know that's been, it's been a real struggle for me with this Kona challenge. So we made a schedule. My schedule looks amazing on paper. I have a terrible time trying to follow it. On my schedule, I have my time with God, I have my workouts, I have all the things. I have not been following, and I know for certain that that's why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling.
Okay, so how are you feeling? Sorry,
I'm tired.
You're tired?
Because I feel like I'm flailing. Like I'm doing all the things that I need to do, but you can probably tell in most of my posting or sharing that it's not from the heart. It's
Okay.
just, okay, I know that this would be good, so pop that in there, that kind of thing. Um, because I'm not following strictly my timeline, and I know it has to be flexible, but because I'm not following it the way that I have it, I'm taking my work way into the evening. My kids are complaining. I mean, not a lot. I mean, they're older. They know that whatever I have to put in my time, but they're feeling it, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
just makes me tired.
I
I don't have the time to sit down and do my nails or something, you know?
Yeah. I started asking myself this week. Like I was feeling like that this week too, to be honest with you. Completely transparent, and you guys know that I try to do that all the time, but I was feeling very lost. I think I actually personally, I think I hit a layer of emotional detox this week, and this week was crummy, super emotionally challenged. And again, full transparency, if you guys, if you know my story or not, um, I was diagnosed bipolar back in 2004 or something like that. And in the last 5 years, I have not felt any of that. And this week, I almost felt like I was slipping back, just enough for me to be like, whoa, I felt like I was slipping back into mania. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't go here. Right. And so I started asking myself simple questions like, what could I do today? One thing. What one thing could I do today that when my head hits the pillow tonight, that I would feel like today was a success? So this sounds really dumb because it has nothing to do with moving the needle forward in my business or really anything else. You know what I did? Was it yesterday or the day before? I think it was the day before. I washed walls in my daughter's bedroom. They have a bunk bed, and you guys know how kids touch walls and it just gets gross. That has been bothering me for months, and I just have not gotten there. And guess what? You know what? My dishes went undone and a lot of the other things, but I washed those walls and they're washed now. And the peace of mind that that gave me was worth its weight in gold. Now, I dropped the ball on epically on a lot of other areas that day, but I had one win. And that was so important for me. So that might be something that could help you feel like you're actually moving forward, where you ask yourself, okay, there's this whole schedule. Because I don't know, Martha, I don't know what color. Christine, I asked myself what one thing I could do today to make myself feel like I was a success at the end of the day. I don't know personality type or whatever, but if you're at all like me, if I'm really functioning in a healthy way, a schedule is really good for me. Really, really good. Because I know exactly between what time and what time I'm supposed to be doing what. And if I'm functioning optimally, that schedule is great. But if I start to slip, and I use this, you guys know, you know this, it's stuck to my desk now. I use the Enneagram. Oh, my daughter must have like taped this to my desk. That's awesome. Okay. It's the 9 levels of health for my Enneagram type. And I just like to use that as a mental check-in. I find it more so because my husband doesn't live here, and he tends to be my mental check-in, where he's like, okay, might want to shift here a little bit. So I use that as my mental check-in. If I'm not functioning optimally, that schedule is like the weight of death. And it does not show all the opportunities that I have to do things, to do the right things. It shows me all the ways that I'm failing.
You know, can I just jump in here, Janelle?
Please.
It's on the BlackBerry. I
Yes.
said to my every single time I go on a Zoom on my BlackBerry, somebody goes, a BlackBerry. But you know, that's just my husband.
It's all
So
good.
anyway, I really I am really relating to what you're saying. I think there was a time in December, my husband was gone for an entire week at markets, and our bedroom looks like an absolute disaster because he works out of our bedroom, and I just give up. so it becomes a catch-all. And I've always wanted my bedroom to be my solace. So I can go in there and get away from everything, and it looks like a tornado hit it. So I thought, I'm cleaning this room. So when he was gone, it took me 18 hours, but I cleaned that bedroom and it looked amazing. I even decorated it for Christmas, which I never do because what's the point? It looks like crap anyways. I'm not going to put pretty stuff in there. So when he came home, he's like, wow, do we have anything left? I said, yes, it's exactly where it belongs. And this is why we do this. And like my mental state went from completely non-productive to, I think I can function now. And I was keeping the rest of the house tidy because my solace, my sacred space, was actually clean. Now it's starting to look like it did before because he's home all the time. But we're going to be working on that in the next little bit. But it really does clear up your mind. It's almost like your mind gets so bogged down with everything you've got to accomplish in a day to take care of your family, your business, your house. What if my mother pops over and she's anally clean and I haven't mopped my floors for 2 weeks? And oh my gosh, they're here, grab the vacuum. It's kind of this panic, right? So once you have like stuff like that done, even if it is just washing the walls, it really does clean your filter mentally. And I find I can focus a whole lot better. So I totally
Absolutely.
That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. And I know also for me, it's that time in scripture. Like my day is totally different if I start it off like that. And for us, I've had kids that have been sick and not sick and whatever. And I've had this weird, everyone's been disrupting my schedule in the last like 2 weeks, and it's driving me crazy. And I love having them home because I'm still a homeschooler at heart. I would homeschool, that's just part of our piece. Kids are there. I'm like, hey, we just need to make a decision. Are you going to be home, all of you, or are you going to go to school? Because I can't handle the in-between. I just can't. Right? And so, maybe that one thing is just, okay, you know what, today I will feel successful if I spend 20 minutes reading my Bible and prayer.
Well, and I find too that like with a schedule, if I overbook my schedule, oh, I've got 15 minutes here, I could just plug this in. Well, guess what? The dog throws up and an hour later, I'm finally getting back to my schedule. And now I'm 45 minutes behind and everything else. And I don't feel like I can play catch up.
No.
So making realistic schedules for me is a big deal. So if I say Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm working the business. So everything else is going to just sit to the side. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, when Maisie is at home and I don't have as much time, then I only work a little bit the business and I get everything else done. Like the time blocking works.
You need to block in flex though, right?
Yeah. That's a good point. I like that. Because
my brain tends to go to that like weight of death place. If I'm too scheduled, instead of seeing it as freedom, I just see it as a jail. And so one day I actually scheduled in an hour where I got to do whatever I wanted to do. And it literally, or maybe it's an hour and a half. And I scheduled in, I get to do whatever I want to do. And this sounds so super surface because, but I don't care. I got to that point, I'm like, you know what I want to do? I want to go give myself a spray tan. That would be so great because I'm a much nicer person when I'm tan. I just am. If I do not feel, if I don't feel like if the sun shone directly on my arm that it would seriously blind somebody, I feel better. Right? It's for you, honestly. So I literally took an hour and I did it. It didn't take an hour. But I did a spray tan, but I did something for me. Right? Rose wants to say something. Yes, Rose.
Hey, sorry to make all the noise. I noticed I am struggling with this time blocking business because of my assignments are just compounding with all my university classes here. I don't know how to make it work.
Yeah, it's I think that it's a constant trial and error. thing. I think that you just need to figure out what's going to work best for you. And you know, sometimes it's just, okay, I've got these 3 things that need to be done today. I'm notorious in thinking and making super long lists that there's no way that anybody could ever get them done in a 24-hour
Honestly,
period.
didn't know you could transfer
Right?
stuff onto there.
So it may just simply be a trial and error thing, Rose. So I think that one of the things that really spoke to me though on this particular point was I don't make sure that I eat healthy all the time. I mean, okay, all the time, you know what I mean, right? Like with moderation, that's good, right? And I don't put an emphasis on my own physical working out. And when I was reading and listening to this, in my brain, you know how sometimes you hear things differently than what they plan to say? It's kind of like when you read scripture and you're like, wow, 3 months ago that said something completely different to me, but today it's saying this. This to me said your team's success depends on whether or not you decide to work out. I was like, what? I don't like doing that. That makes me uncomfortable. I don't like sweating. But I would do it for them. I wouldn't do it for me, obviously, because I haven't. And Nikki was saying, I have to go look. Where did this go? Nikki, I'm hugely struggling there. I've been saying I'm going to start working out tomorrow since the first week of my Renew You challenge. Yes, I have to take my after pictures and they're going to look like the before pictures. Not gonna lie. And whose iPhone? Keely's boot camp will help you with all these issues, life-changing. Oh, very cool. Very cool. I actually just found an exercise program that I'm going to start. How's that for air quotes? And it's a specific, it's not HIIT, I can't remember what it is, but it's legitimately 7 minutes. I'm like, you could probably do 7 minutes. I like the Betty Rocker because she does 15. I like that, and she's really fun. Anyway, so working out actually is something that you not only do for yourself, but you're doing it for your team. Okay? So number 3, raise the necessity for exceptional performance. This means actively tapping into the reasons you absolutely must perform. And that's the why that we were talking about. It's about knowing your why and stoking that fire all the time so you feel the needed drive or pressure to get at it. Okay? So if you need to refresh your why, now is the time to do it. Stop putting it off and do it and put it on paper. Okay. The 4th thing, increase productivity in your primary field of interest. Specifically focus on prolific quality output. So he calls it the PQO. Oh, it was Ramona. Thanks, Ramona. You'll also have to minimize distractions, including opportunities that steal your attention from creating PQO. Okay, so that means that if something comes up that's a good thing in your life that will minimize your prolific quality output, you might have to say no. I'm just going to leave that there because we're going to get there in the weeks to come. But that's kind of a mindset shift, right? I know of a church that looks at their ministries every year. And even if the ministries are good things and there's good things happening, if they don't support the vision of where the church is going in that year, they will cut them, even though they're good things, because they're taking volunteers away from their main focus and goal, right? Sitting down with your kids to watch a movie on Netflix, that's great. But if you're doing it every day, twice a day, that could be affecting your PQO. Okay, this one is huge. Number 5 is humongous. And it's something I think we can all grow in. And we are going to spend a ton of time talking about this. But number 5 is develop influence with those around you. It will make you better at getting people to believe in and support your efforts and ambitions. Unless you consciously develop a positive support network, Major achievements over the long haul are all but impossible. So you do not need to naturally be an influencer, but you do need to consciously become influential over people, not over, you know what I mean, with people and how do we do that? By investing into their lives, right? And this again is that shoving away of ego and investing in other people. So creating a positive network. Some people say that they don't have a positive network. There are positive networks out there. You are not, you can find those positive networks. It may not be in your church. You may not have a church. I don't understand, as an RCMP wife, I do not understand how people move around this country without connecting to new church networks. Doesn't make any sense to me. Coming into relationship with other people that have the same beliefs, values, and morals or family guidelines. If I can find a church that believes the same thing as I do, you know, maybe, like, obviously it's not 100%, but I know that that's going to be a support to our family. And yes, I think our team chats are a really positive network. Team chats can be negative, for sure. And that's why as leaders, we're so protective of that culture. But yeah, for sure, team chats, absolutely. I love that. So if you do not have those positive support networks, start looking for them. Look for opportunities to join positive support networks. Number 6, demonstrate courage by expressing your ideas, taking bold action, and standing up for yourself and others, even in the face of fear, uncertainty, threat, or changing conditions. Courage is not an occasional act, but a trait of choice and will. I love that. So those 6 again: seek clarity, generate energy, raise necessity, increase productivity, develop influence, and demonstrate courage. So does anybody else feel like this is going to be an amazing book and a great book study? I really love that the entire concept is focused around the idea that everybody can gain these things. These are things that you can work on that are tangible. You do not need to change your height in order to achieve success. Because I think that somehow when we look, or when I look at some people who are really successful, I can start to see their natural talents and abilities coming through and go, oh, well, it's just because they this. Or it's because their situation is this. Or it's because they don't have this stress that I do in their lives. Right? I also found, and as you guys read, for those of you who haven't gotten all the way to where we are, there were things in here. Oh, I also love that he said, in seeking disconfirming evidence, we have looked for people who are not high performing despite practicing the habits in this book. So I love the fact that they're actually looking for this to get proven wrong, to see if it actually exists. And you know what? It wasn't in my brain, but I could think of a couple people that as soon as they read this, what would their, you know, if you have a negative mindset, what could that response be? Well, I guess I'll be the first person. Or something about, sorry, I need to just find this one. He said, I've never seen it to be the case, but common sense says there's bound to be an exception somewhere. A negative mindset could say, yep, I'll be the exception. I could learn all those habits in that book and I still won't be. If that is you, I would encourage you to write out what you are going to say to yourself. And it's kind of like when my kids say something bad about each other, I will make them say 3 nice things that are true about that person. And then it just constantly is seeding something. So if you are having those reactions where when it's saying, you know, there's got to be somebody somewhere, yep, that would be me. please replace that with something positive, because if you allow that to roll around in your brain at all, you will become what you're telling yourself. The other thing that I love about this author is that his job is a coach. His job is to get results with people. If he doesn't get results, he doesn't get paid. He loses clients. He was named one of the top 25 most influential people. I can't remember where, but I just read that somewhere. And he's the top 100 influencers on Instagram or something like that. He knows what he's talking about, because he said it's not like somebody who's a podcaster or just a general blogger or influencer who gets paid by ads or whatever, by people clicking and whatever. I get paid to make sure people are succeeding. And we can see that in our own industry. Brooke Hemingway. She just went to his mastermind summit and she's been following him for years. I'd say that that's pretty good results for someone that is high performing in our industry. Before we close it down, is there anything that you guys took away that we haven't talked about, or anything that you're thinking of? I really have appreciated your input. That's what I want to hear. This is the other thing here. Taken together, then, the HP6, like these 6 things, are a powerful predictor of not just whether you're a high performer, but also whether you'll be happy. So as I was reading this, I messaged my son. He was on his computer. And that's just the easiest way to get his attention, is to make something pop up on his computer. I said, so if I incentivized you to read a book, how much money would I have to pay you? I am not beyond bribery when it pays off well for me. He's like, well, how long is the book? I was like, well, come upstairs and you look at it. So I showed him. It's about this long. I said, how much? What's it worth to you? And he's like, well, I don't know. Okay, so he's almost 14. It's like, $10? I'm like, okay. And I was thinking way higher than that. And so I said, so what if I topped it up to 20 and said, for $20, if you highlight, make notes, and chat with me about it, I'll give you $20 if you're done, when you're done. Like, yeah, I could do that. I was thinking like $50, because I think that this is so good that I would pay him way more than that, right? So I'm encouraging him to read this, because I read him that part about happiness, right? And he's basically saying in this book that if you have these habits, you are not thinking internally, you're thinking externally. And that's what creates that feeling of happiness. And in an age with our kids where they are high anxiety and they struggle with a lot of things, right? Because of pressures and all of those, whatever social media has put into our lives, whatever, being so connected, any of those things. Yes, of course, faith, number one. But I think that these habits can be put into ministry, missions, schoolwork, your hobbies, any of those things. So if anybody wants to follow me in incentivizing, unabashedly bribing your child to read this book. And I told him I would send him the YouTube link as well so he could listen to it. And so I'm actually going to order another copy, because he can't have mine. He can write in his own. Anybody else? Yes, we are going to do this every Saturday, 10 a.m. I will make sure that the recording is passed along to you guys. Any other last comments, questions, queries? No? I just want to look at Linda's background with the palm tree swaying in the wind. It's a good thing we have this videoed for you, Linda, next week when you're sitting back at home and there's snow. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for investing in yourselves and in your businesses enough to take part in this. I think what we will try to do, I'm hoping, let me just look, because I was going to do this before. So I would guess that there's, okay, so we are going to do clarity next week. I really feel like we are going to need the 6 things. I think we're going to need a week. Do you guys feel like that? We're going to need a week on each of the 6 things. The length of the chapter goes from, so it's really not that terribly long. It's like 35 pages. So, I mean, we can see how we do, but I know that when we've done other, like, I just feel like clarity is going to need some discussion. Go at your own pace. I was thinking for myself, it might be good to try to give myself a challenge of reading 10 pages a day, but that's me personally. So if we did this one a week, one section a week, it would take us forever. So we probably won't do that, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, that's not that bad. He's got more sections in the back, but so we will just do the Seek Clarity, high performance habit number 1, Seek Clarity. That's what you need to have read by next week. Hopefully your books come in, and yeah, if not, you can listen to that one section on audio a couple times this week. Yeah, okay. I hope you guys have a great week, great weekend. Go wash a wall somewhere. Think about one thing that will make you feel like a success today, so that at the end of the day, even if everything, when I homeschooled, I would have 3 things that they were my absolutes. If everything else went to pot, if the kids did Bible, math, and spelling, I counted it as a successful day. And so I always think about that. What thing or things, if I do today, will make me feel like a success? So, and I want to know, what things did you do? I think we'll join our chats. I've made a decision. I'll tell Marge. I want to know what successful things you guys are going to do to make yourself feel like you've accomplished something today. Anyway, love you all. Thank you so much for giving me your time this morning, and we'll see you next week, if not sooner. Bye.